Paddock Hill Bend to Druids 60 years ago in 1954 to become this 1.24-mile Brands Indy circuit. That first meeting featured one N.G. Hill, a graduate of the racing school here at Brands Hatch. It was his first race. 9 years later, he was Formula One world champion, and in his honour, Bottom Bend was renamed Graham Hill Bend. There it is at the bottom of the hill down from Druids. And this, a massive challenge for this huge grid of riders. 32 riders on the starting grid, and the huge mix-up back to front after that damp qualifying session means that we're expecting some top liners to try and fight their way through the pack. None more so, of course, than Shaky Byrne, the former champion, who says he hasn't concocted any sort of plan so far. When I asked him, he said, when the lights change, I'll decide what my tactics are then. And up until that point, I should think it'll just be motoring forward as fast as he possibly can. But with Brooks, Chianari, Hopkins, Walker and Westmoreland so near the front, we know that there are some rapid people up ahead of Shaky Byrne. Josh Brooks, Milwaukee Yamaha. Yuichi Chianari, build-based BMW, and John Hopkins on the Tyco Suzuki. They're row 1. Row 2, Chris Walker on the Lloyd's British GB Moto Kawasaki ahead of Westmoreland's build-based BMW, and Richard Cooper on the Anvil Higher Tag Kawasaki. Row 3, Ben Wilson's Gearlink Kawasaki. Welcome back, Ben. Michael Rutter, Batham's BMW, and PR Racing's Kawasaki's Keith Farmer. And Patrick Muff on the Batham's BMW alongside Milwaukee Yamaha's Tommy Bridewell and the injured Michael Dunlop on the third build-based BMW. Everything to play for here at Brands Hatch. Fascinating, fascinating race in prospect. Brooks will be looking to get straight out of the blocks in his 121st British Superbike race. Yeah, alongside him, Chianari and Hopkins. On the second row, Chris Walker is riding his 260th British Superbike race on his Kawasaki, and alongside him, Westmoreland in his 75th race here. And alongside him, of course, is little Mini Cooper. Richard Cooper qualifies 6th. It's his 4th ever British Superbike race. So we have such a mix of experience, of talent, of age out there. It really is going to be a fascinating first contest in the series.
Yeah, Brooks is going to know that fast people are coming from behind. That man there, Shane Byrne, back on row 5, and he ain't going to stay back there for long.
30 laps ahead of the riders here, 32 of them on the grid. Josh Brooks in pole position. The first race in the 2014. Oh, what a moment! Someone's... Oh, Keogh stalled it on the line, frantically waved his hand. Everybody managed to veer around him. And Keogh now gets off. Now he's absolutely dead last. What will that produce? This is some start already. The Milwaukee Yamaha leads the way, and the Stalker starters worked for the veteran Walker. He has bounced straight through into second place, with Ben Wilson also having stormed through to third. Hopkins, Cooper, Byrne, 6th of 13th place on the grid. So that was his tactic then.
And I tell you what, Chianari stalling on the grid there, that was terrible. I could not speak, my heart was in my mouth. Because in that situation, I've done it, you're just waiting for somebody to clobber you. The rest of the boys behind did really well. Stalker takes the lead.
Chris Walker leads a British Superbike race once again at the fine old age of 42. It's only brief, the length of the Brabham Straight. Brooks storms back.
He'll cut to the inside and try and get the inside of Brooks into Druids and doesn't make it. But, hey, make no mistake, Chris Walker has been quick in the dry and in the waste, not just the weather.
He sets up Brooks big time through Druids, and the equally busy and aggressive Ben Wilson making his return to British Superbikes in 3rd place.
I tell you what, Chris Walker's been on the red meat, you can tell that, can't you?
Walker leads the way. He last won, of course, in the wet at Alton Park. I can't even remember that one, when that was a couple of years ago.
3 years ago, yeah.
So Chris Walker leading the way here in the dry. What has fired up the veteran Nottinghamshireman? He's there at the front. Brooks in 2nd place, Ben Wilson in 3rd place. Shaky Byrne, having made that lightning fast start, James, has got the difficult men to pass, and he hasn't actually progressed any further than 7th place. Richard Cooper is the man holding him off in 6th.
Yeah, Cooper's had a good weekend so far, wet and dry, and this is the start of the race we're going to see again. Watch this, man from the front row, red and white bike, middle of the front row, stalls the bike getting away, puts his hand up that lane, look at that. The thing is, Jack, by the time by the time the last few riders from the back of the grid are going through, they've had probably about 70 yards to get going. They're doing best part of 100 miles an hour. Unbelievably dangerous. The boys did really well to not have that big incident.
The front two are breaking away here because Ben Wilson is just slightly, well, I was going to say holding up, but there's a clutch of people behind him now. John Hopkins is in there on the Tyco Suzuki. Richard Cooper. James Ellison has got the better of Byrne and is there in 6th place. But Shaky's looking underneath the Cumbrian now and drops ahead of him as they go into Druids Hill Bend.
Yeah.
46.236 second lap for Chris Walker at the front. Incidentally, the astonishing lap record still stands to the astonishing Gregorio Levere from 2007, 45.46. We're looking at Shaky Byrne looking back down the field, because remember there are people like Rutter in 8th, Muff, Westmoreland, Bridewell, Farmer, Easton is up to 13th, Waters 14th, Andrews 15th.
Chris Walker still leads. Brooks is going with him, but those pair have got 1.5 seconds now.
This is an interesting contest in the battle there for 3rd place, because John Hopkins has never seen Ben Wilson on a track in front of him before. He has got no idea what to expect from the Lincolnshire lad.
He won't know who he is, I'll tell you that now.
Who's this man in orange and green, and who's moving around the motorcycle like it's a toy? The leader, though, still Chris Walker. Brooks just sitting in. Well, is he just sitting in there, or would Josh like to get back past? But at the moment, look at that squabbling group there. And great rides by Wilson, by Hopkins, by Cooper. Richard Cooper, looking, this is his 4th ever British Superbike race.
Yeah, the stars that show for me already are Chris Walker, Cooper and Wilson. This is a good ride from both Wilson and Cooper, doing really well.
The number 15 machine, the Gearlink Kawasaki, of course, being run by a man who lost the British Super Sport Championship right here at Brands Hatch a couple of years ago by a single point. But what we tend to forget about him is he has finished top 12 in British Superbike some time ago. Look at this, Keith Farmer's having a good ride as well. Farmer is leading a swathe of people there. Farmer running 14th. Just ahead of Josh Waters, Jakob Smirch, Simon Andrews, Martin Jessop's in there. Michael Dunlop, who really is in a lot of pain with his left arm, having crashed heavily yesterday. I said, have you been? And he says he thinks something's broken. I said, have you been and had it x-rayed? And he said, no. And you said, James, you said it's not the Dunlop way.
It's not the Dunlop way, I'll tell you. Chris Walker, Josh Brooks into Druids. We've got about a set. Shaky keeps looking up the inside. It's now Wilson. He was looking in the inside of Hopkins. Hopkins now passed. Hopkins now passed Wilson for 3rd.
So John Hopkins, Tyco Suzuki. James Ellison dives inside Richard Cooper as they go into Graham Hill Bend. Everything happening here at the front. Chris Walker, Josh Brooks almost holding station. Now Hopper, see the front of the Suzuki dive as he hit the brakes there, going into that complex at McLaren's.
Yeah.
The American just beginning to creep away now from the 4th, 5th and 6th place men. Here's Brooks. Brooks on that distinctive black and red Milwaukee Yamaha slides underneath Chris Walker.
Right, so what you've got to do there is cut to the inside. You're figuring the rider's gone in a bit quick to Paddock Hill. He might just lose time up to...
Oh, he's gone down! Josh Brooks has lost the front end going into Druids. Just when he was holding that tighter line. Oh, he'll be furious.
He will be furious.
That's not the start he wanted.
If we see that again, that's mid-corner. He's off the brakes by now. You'd expect to lose that. Oh, might just have been carrying a little bit of front brake there, Jack. Do you know when you're going just that little bit too quick, you try and feather that brake right to the apex just to try and keep the bike slowing down. And, yeah, I suspect he just had the front brake still on there.
So out goes Josh Brooks. Chris Walker now has half the length of the Brabham Straight. But look at this. Here comes Shaky Byrne. Byrne moves through into 2nd place. And that is a clean move past Hopkins. And suddenly the ex-champion is right in the mix and also looking strong. James Ellison is 4th.
Yes, he is. Ellison looked to capitalise from Byrne going under Hopkins by... and here comes Ellison. Oh, he's having a look.
Ellison actually started from the row 6 behind Byrne.
6 or 7? 6. Yeah.
So terrific racing going on here. Josh Brooks, his opportunity to actually gain some points straight away on Byrne has now evaporated. Shaky's got clear track ahead of him. And there, number 77, James Ellison desperately trying to get past John Hopkins on the Tyco Suzuki.
I tell you what, Chris Walker's going to be, I don't know what he's going to be thinking, to be honest, to be leading in the dry. I mean, we know how good Chris is in the wet, but I've got to say, pre-season testing in the dry has been really quick. Never out the top 5 in this company, and that's quick. He's fitter than he has been for years. Yeah, but I still think he'll be shocked to be at the front. Here comes Ellison having another look down into Graham Hill.
James Ellison on the Lloyd's British GB Moto Kawasaki, the team having moved on to Kawasaki's from Hondas after last year. And behind the leading crew, incidentally, Michael Rutter, who on the track where he last had a podium in a British Superbike race, has moved through to 7th place ahead of his Batham's BMW teammate, Patrick Moff.
It'll be just interesting to see how fast Shane Byrne can go now. He's got a little bit of clear track. Just Walker up ahead of him.
46.59 on that lap. Walker on a 46.79, so a couple of tenths taken out of Stalker's lead on that lap. Hopkins there, still with all that wealth of experience, is able to fend off James Ellison. Richard Cooper has got the better of Ben Wilson. They're now running 5th and 6th. And then we've got Rutter and Muff teammates together. Westmoreland in 9th. Tommy Bridewell now through to 10th place. There's the 2 beautiful black BMWs of the Batham squad. Westmoreland just behind him, and then Bridewell, the second of the red machines, is of course a Milwaukee Yamaha. Easton is now 11th. He's just picking his way through, James.
He's actually going quick as well. He's setting his fastest lap on fastest lap. He's in the 46s and about 3 or 4 rounds in front of him, only in 47s.
James Ellison looking for the drive up the inside there at Paddock Hill, but Hopkins has got a beautiful line round there. In fact, Hopper using, he's just got such a great sweeping lines round here. It's difficult for James to just find the room to get underneath it.
Yeah, and
he keeps looking.
He does keep looking. And this is exactly what Hopkins needs. A really good start, and just to get stuck in, get a few laps in the dry under his belt. Remember, he's been off a bike for over a year.
And this is his first race since 2012. It's a long time to be away.
And it's a weird place to come for your first race. It's so intense, it's so many laps, it's so much action. Here comes Ellison looking at Paddock Hill. It's just... And Hopkins has quite a lot of confidence in the front. Ellison keeps setting it up, keeps putting himself in a position where he's going to have a go, but then has to hit the brakes before Hopkins, so he can't get under him.
The lead down to 2.12 seconds. Walker on a 46.6 and a 46.49 for Shaky Byrne on that lap. Behind this crew, you can see that Wilson's still tucked in there behind Cooper. 7th Rutter, 8th Muff, 9th Westmoreland, 10th Bridewell. Jakob Smertz now has the Ducati Panigale up into 13th place from absolutely nowhere. He was on the row 9 on the grid.
Here come, this might work.
Getting big drive there out of the Clark curve onto the Brabham straight, and James Ellison now moves through into 3rd place. Walker leads it, Byrne in 2nd place. Ellison now 3rd. Hopper, Cooper, Wilson running top 6.
Yeah, and actually good point just handed to me by James Hayden, that the GB Motor Kawasaki's of Ellison and Walker are on the soft front, and that might be having a bearing on this. They're on the soft front. Also, yeah, softer rear as well. So they're on softer tyres.
And so too did Suzuki.
And Suzuki and Hopkins, yeah.
Chris Walker, number 9, leads the way. Let's check him as he crosses the line. That lap, 47.2. Oh, his speed's going off a bit. 46.48 for Byrne, 46.508. Fastest lap of his race for... Oh, Christopher. Walker has a big moment. I think his motocross experience may have helped him there. But the gap is now really shrinking dramatically between the 2 Kawasaki's at the front. On to what was once the bottom straight, now the Cooper straight, euphemistically named a straight. There isn't really one here on the Brands Hatch Indy circuit. We're on the 15th lap, virtually half distance. Last one in the points at the moment, Martin Jessup ahead of Lee Costello, the leading Halsall Kawasaki star. And then Simon Andrews. Keith Farmer slipped back to 18th. Chianari is up to 19th place after stalling on the line.
Yep, just getting a good shot. That's Michael Rutter and Tommy Bridewell.
So Bridewell is beginning to get into his rhythm now, through to 8th place ahead of Westmoreland, and he's now pestering the man who will be riding his 420th race in the second race here today in his British Superbike career. Yeah, that's Michael Rutter.
James Westmoreland going really wide, trying to keep up with these pair. Like I said, this is the battle for 7th and 8th.
And Rutter gets sat up there by Bridewell. Bridewell is really on the move now. He moves through into 7th place, and he'll have clear track to try and wind in Wilson and Cooper.
Yeah, you've got to think that Bridewell, with people like Wilson, Cooper, and in front of him, he's got to be quite disappointed with this, I think.
The Panigali's beginning to make a move as well as they drop into Paddock Hill Bend now. Smertz is really pestering Dan Linfoot and his Kawasaki down the hill, up Halewood Hill now. Number 4, Linfoot. There is the bright red and white Ducati.
Yeah, number 96, Smertz, there it is. And he's been a little bit unlucky. He was one of the riders that didn't benefit in the wet and treacherous conditions yesterday in qualifying. He had, however, been really quick in the drive, but he had to start from, I think, row 7. Who's pulling off there?
Is that number 26? It's Josh Wainwright. It's Reggie who's on a stock bike, which is also running in the CEV Spanish Superbike Championship, lying 4th in the Privateers Spanish Series. We're on the 18th of 30 laps. There is Chris Walker with that distinctive helmet in. The red flag.
Red flag.
Red flag is out. The red flag is out. We don't know why, but Walker. Now. And we've had a blow-up on the start and finish lane. James Hillier on the Quattro Plant Kawasaki, deputising for Howie Mainwaring.
And that is a blow-up, let me tell you. That's a rod out, or that's a big blow-up.
So this is not a result because we've only reached...
Well, things he does as Chris, and it works. Well, it has done today.
It certainly has. It's a couple of years since he won at Alton Park in those damp conditions. It's, well, 2006 since he won that one race at Assen in the Netherlands in pouring rain in World Superbikes. The only man who's ever won a World Superbike race, or probably any other race, from being in the gravel at the first turn, 200 yards behind anybody else.
He was.
Remarkable ride. Well, he doesn't have such a handicap today if he makes the start, because he's got a clear track ahead of him as they drop down through Paddock Hill Bend. And this is going to be interesting. 12 laps. Yeah, 12 laps. This is the first of 2 warm-up laps because it's such a short track. And more importantly, there's actually only one proper left-hander on the whole track. So they tend to give the bikes 2 warm-up laps, not just one, just to try and get a little bit of heat into, especially, like I said, the left-hand side of the tyres. So the first of the 2 warm-up laps here for the reduced 12-lap race for the opening round. This is still, if we haven't yet run the first race, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you what, we're going to have a crammed schedule for you after this race is over, by the time we try and squeeze off air at about 6 o'clock this afternoon. Well, we didn't make it off air by 6 o'clock yesterday, so you'd better just keep the kettle boiling or keep the cans of beer opening, and we'll see how long we go through today. Let's take another rain check on the grid. This is how it looks then, with Walker and Ellison on the Lloyd's British GB Moto Kawasaki's 1st and 3rd. Shaky Byrne in the middle for Rapid Solicitors Kawasaki. 5 Kawasaki's out of the top 6. Hopkins is the only intruder for Taiko Suzuki. And then you've got Richard Cooper and Ben Wilson on their respective Kawasaki's. Tommy Bridewell, Milwaukee Yamaha. Batham's BMW's. Michael Rutter was looking strong in that first race. BMW James Westmoreland in 9th. And the 4th row, Stuart Easton, looking for a bright start from that position. And he's ahead of Patrick Muff and Quattro Plant Kawasaki's survivor, Dan Linfoot. Simon Andrews has pulled up at the end of the first. There he goes, that's Simon Andrews. He's retired already, the RAF Reserves Honda Fireblade. Unlucky for him. I think that possibly had something to do with the fact that he put it upside down in qualifying yesterday. He had a really big crash, big high side on the bottom straight, and did a fair bit of damage to that bike. And there's such, even with the rules as they are now, there's less electronics, but there's still tons and tons of little sensors and crank sensors and lambda sensors. It's just one wire or a bit of chafing that'll put him out. I think it's probably something to do with that. So lining up for the 12 laps first race. Chris Walker on pole position, looking for the classic stalker start he's always convinced that he can make. That's James Ellison. Ellison is in third place on the grid. What he would like to do is get away ahead of Shaky Byrne. That would give him such a valuable advantage. The ex-champion, the three-time champion, is bang in the middle of those two.
Come on, Chris.
Oh, he got a little bit of an over-eager jump, but he did get the jump on Shaky. And Ellison... Oh, it's not. It's Ben Wilson who dives through on the inside. Wilson, once again, elbows out, makes a terrific start, and he's up into third place.
Yeah, that's Chris Walker, Shane Byrne, and Ben Wilson. Like you said, cracking start from Ben, but an equally good start from Chris Walker. Never seen him make a bad start ever.
So Ellison fourth, Hopkins fifth. Easton has leapt to sixth place from 10th. Bridewell seventh. Cooper has got knocked back to 8th place. Rutter ninth.
Lots of bumping and boring now. I think Keith Farmer came off worse there of a little bit of sideways action on the bottom straight.
So Walker has the advantage. Wilson in third place. Ellison will be desperate to find a way past the gear-link Kawasaki because he's only got 12 laps to try and get himself into the, well, at least onto the rostrum. Here comes Shaky Byrne making a very early move on Walker, and one lap in already. The London-born three-time champion gets himself there. Walker comes back up the inside. Shaky waves a leg and warns him off.
Shaky's gone wide, though. Take that.
Yes, Christopher, very nice. Walker then, back to the front.
Walker trying to give him a tattoo there. Damn it.
So Walker, number 9, his traditional number 9, is back in the front, and that's exactly what Mark Halverson-Smith was hoping that his lad would do.
Yeah, and remember, this there's no aggregate. Even though we've had a fair portion of this race already before it was stopped, it's not an aggregate result. This is just a straight fight. What you see is what you get here.
Look how they took him right underneath the line of cement dust there. A Stalker determinedly swoops across the front of the Rapid Solicitors Kawasaki down Paddock Hill Bend, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is steep. It's completely blind. It's like dropping off the end of a cliff. Fastest lap, 46.4, Chris Walker.
Yep. Ellison now in third. Wilson back to fourth.
We're on the third lap of 12. The Lloyd's British GB Motors Kawasaki, the Rapid Solicitors Kawasaki. And in third place now, Ellison has bumped his way through and is trying to close the gap on the two leaders as we approach already almost quarter distance.
Yep. Coming around clearways once again. Dead impressed with how equally matched these bikes are. Rules as they are in BSB, that should be the case, but it certainly is.
And once again, Shaky gets terrific drive, and this time Chris has no answer. Shaky had got the drive coming out of the Clark curve, and that gave him the advantage along the Brabham straight. Ellison quick as 46.043.
Shaky went in really quick to do his again there. That almost again allowed Walker up the inside of him.
Wilson is fourth, fending off John Hopkins and that white Suzuki behind him. You can see Cooper running sixth, Easton seventh.
Like I said when we saw him in the garage, I had a feeling about Ellison. I just think Ellison's got a fair bit of confidence going with him now after that first run.
Checking out who's... Oh, the Ducati's moved up as well. Jakob Smerts up into 8th place.
We'd expect to see Jakob Smerts there. Unlucky, he was the one who didn't benefit from that wet qualify. Oh, Soccer's gone really wide.
His teammate just took a look then and thought, oh, I might be able to just sneak through.
Yeah, I think.
And now he's within catching distance of Walker.
Yeah, and Chris needs to sort of settle down. He doesn't need to think that Shaky Byrne's getting away, and he needs to push on. I think Chris has got the pace for a Rostramian anyway.
Well, he's certainly got the space behind him. Look at that. There's a gap back to Ben Wilson and John Hopkins. These three have pretty much made that break as we're already on the 5th lap of the 12-lap shortened race. Remember, this was scheduled originally for 30 laps, so this really is a sprint.
I think that Chris Walker there will be much more likely to get stuck in and about his teammate than he would Shane Byrne, you know.
Yes. Oh, Chris had a big, kind of light front-end wobble at that point as he came out of the Clark curve.
Yeah, the only thing you got to watch there is if sometimes you get that going on, it pushes the flex in the front end, pushes the pads back in the calipers, and that means you get to the next corner, no brakes. So you've always got to put pressure back in the system before you get to the next corner.
Ben Wilson, he's good. Looking pretty comfortable. He's holding on to that 4th place. Hopkins, Richard Cooper still having a lively ride in 6th. Easton not able to get to grips with him in 7th. Bridewell 8th, Smerts 9th. Westmoreland rounds out the top 10 ahead of Rutter and Muff again running together.
You wouldn't have Ben Wilson been in front of John Hopkins, would you? For third.
No.
You just wouldn't. Paul, sorry.
There's the Millsport Ducati Panigale right on the back wheel as they cross the line of Tommy Bridewell. The two red machines together.
Yeah, the rules have changed slightly in BSB just to allow that Panigale Ducati that little bit more sort of competitiveness, shall we say. They're allowed different pistons now, which means the valves can be timed differently, more aggressively. That should give it a little bit more power and mid-range.
We've lost Barry Burrell, he's retired to the pits. We lost Andrews, of course, before the race had even started. Chianari, incidentally, hasn't been able to improve on 19th place. He's behind Harry Hartley, the youngest lad in the race, the 17-year-old from Burnley.
Yeah, unusual that. That was a really scary first start for Chianari because he stalled it, but he looked to me like he had the pace to run top 5 or 6.
Chris Walker now has settled down. He's listened to you, James, and he's looking as if he's setting the same pace as Ellison and able to just, well, sit there ahead of him, really.
Yep, he's actually setting about the same pace as the leader Byrne, but there is that sort of, about half-second gap, just over maybe.
Well, Ellison set a lap of 46.063, but he's not able to match that now. He's running at 46.5. Hopkins in 5th, Cooper, Easton, Tommy Bridewell still fending off Jakob Smertz, James Westmoreland in 10th, and then they're fighting the other point scorers, Rutter, Linfoot, Moff, Jessup and Josh Waters.
Yeah, already with 3/4 of the way through this race.
So onto the 9th lap of 12. Look at this gang.
You can see that.
You can see that 9th place Smertz is quite frustratingly close to 4th place Wilson. There's an awful gaggle of them there, fighting over these places, but no one really able to make a move yet.
With 3.5 laps left, it's time for a lunge, Jakob.
It is. And I've got a feeling, like, it looks to me as if Easton, he's not quite the lunging type, but he's been very close to Cooper for a couple of laps, not able to get past him. So the two, there they are, the two boyish-looking 30-year-olds are locked together on their two Kawasaki's.
Yep, that's... Yeah, blue bike Farmer, red bike Chianari. That's actually, he's going backwards because Harry Hartley's in front of him now.
I think Harry Hartley's moved past him on that also racing Kawasaki.
Definitely.
So something not quite right for Keo at the moment.
I would agree.
And there is Hartley moving on now past. You know, he said he was enjoying the. He said he had a. Oh no, it's not. It's the other Hassel Racing Kawasaki. It's Lee Costello. Lee Costello who's moved ahead of Keith Farmer there.
It is.
And Costello, of course, had a blinding ride at the end of the series last year here at Brands Hatch. Run 2nd in slightly iffy conditions.
Yeah, both Hartley and his teammate Costello, both from the northwest. I think Wigan for Costello. I think Burnley for Hartley.
He's a Bolton boy, Costello.
Is it Bolton? And just got 17, actually.
Look at how loose does Shaky Byrne look. He's thoroughly enjoying himself out there as James Ellison once again launches an assault. He's got 11 and 2 laps left in which to do something about Chris Walker.
Yeah, he has. I like James Ellison, but I don't want him to pass Chris Walker. I've been building up for that for some laps.
You're the man who's accused me of bias in the past. What's all this about?
Oh, mate, I'm as biased as they come, I am.
Shaky Byrne leads the way. There is Chris Walker, who makes the men both 4 and after him seem like relative children.
Chris Walker's just one of these lads that's quick on anything. Motocross bike, quick. Trials bike, not so quick, but very good. He just has that feel, that kind of eye to hand, and he's just good on bikes.
Finished top 10, of course, in the Western Beach race about 2 or 3 years ago. Always enjoys being on 2 wheels, whatever, or wherever he is. He's on to the final lap. The fastest lap classification, of course, will set up the grid for race 2. Ellison has been quickest. Byrne, Walker, they change around on the front row of the grid. Easton, Bridewell and Jakob Smertz would be on the 2nd row. Oh, that's an interesting turnaround. Even though Smertz has not, Bridewell's got past Richard Cooper into 7th, but Jakob Smertz hasn't managed to. As we watch the battle for 2nd place go on, it's going to be victory, first time out, and 5 podium points, of course, for the race winner, Shaky Byrne, making the perfect start in his attempt to reclaim the British title and go for a record-breaking 4th crown. He crosses the line for Rapids Listeners Kawasaki, and right behind him,
Walker.
The 2 Lloyd's British GB Moto boys cross the line, and Ben Wilson holds on to a proper tank slapper, crossing the line in a brilliant 4th place for Gearlink Kawasaki. 5th place, John Hopkins, Taiko Suzuki. 6th, Stuart Easton, grabbed Tommy Bridewell by the scruff of the neck in the run-up to the line and snatched 6th place. 8th for Richard Cooper, just by about 600ths of a second from Jakob Smerts. James Westmoreland in 10th. Linfoot, Rutter, Jessup, Muff and Waters, the point scorers. Chianari recovered to 16th. But for Shane Byrne, all that matters to him is that he won that. For these two guys, Chris Walker gets his 49th podium, and it is, of course, something like the 52nd race win in British Superbikes for the race winner, Shaky Byrne. In fact, it is indeed 52 race wins and 67 podiums for number 67, Shaky Byrne. The speedy fastest lap goes to the Lloyd's British GB Moto Kawasaki of James Ellison, who finally managed to get 0.3 of a second below Jossie Elliott's phenomenal new Superstock 1000 lap record.
Easy for you to say?
No, not so easy for me to say. So the result of the first frantic contest in the MC British Superbike Championship of 2014. Shaky Byrne, Rapid Solicitors Kawasaki. Chris Walker and James Ellison, 2nd and 3rd for Lloyd's British GB Moto. Ben Wilson, 4th in the Kawasaki 1-2-3-4 for Gearlink Kawasaki. John Hopkins, Taiko Suzuki 5th. Stuart Easton is 6th. Tommy Bridewell's Milwaukee Yamaha 7th, ahead of Richard Cooper on the Anvil Higher Tag Kawasaki. Jakob Smerts, Millsport Ducati, the Irish-based squad with the Czech rider. James Westmoreland, build-based BMW, is 10th. 11th for his pal Dan Linfoot, Quattro Plant Kawasaki, ahead of Michael Rutter, Batham's BMW. Martin Jessup, good ride for part-time Jessupi on the ridersmotorcycles.com BMW, ahead of Patrick Muff and Josh Waters, with Chianari, Costello, Harry Hartley, Keith Farmer and the former Australian Supersport champion Mitchell Carr rounding out the top 20.